The Dreamer, Chapter 2.
Notes. Captain informed of position. Anticipate cooperation. Personality disorder, a possibility. Further analysis necessary before final diagnosis. Vital error in preparation. Apparel education overlooked. Captain, as per culture, restrictive, excessively harsh. A crash of thunder. My head was steadier, the frigid cold gone. I was exhilarated at my success and eager to begin my adventure. Despite the darkness and cold, I jumped out of bed to explore. I looked down in surprise. From what I could see by the light of the candle, I was in a nightdress of sorts, white and loose, and it hung down to my knees. I fingered the coarse, stiff material reverently, painstakingly crafted by hand from beginning to end. 18th century, dear reader. My lips curled in a satisfied smile. A sound at the window captured my attention, and I went to it and peered out. A storm was gathering, the last of the sun's rays struggling to emerge from the horizon, bathing the low sky in purple and teal. The younger man, the captain, stepped forward. Though his dark hair and eyes were largely hidden by his three-tipped hat, I would just make out the wide line of his jaw and his slightly crooked nose. His chin was covered in stubble, and a thick scar at his neck was visible under his collar. I would not have called him a handsome man, but his face was not unpleasant. He buttoned his coat and seemed to take note of the weather, looking at the sky and increasingly choppy waters. He didn't seem overly concerned. I could guess he'd been through storms before. A smudge on the railing caught his attention, and he stopped to wipe it away, carefully rubbing his fingers over the grime. His fingers removed most of the dirt, but still he took a handkerchief from the inside of his coat and cleaned off the rest, polishing the rail until it shined. I began to move away to join him, but there was a noise. The captain turned towards it, and I peered out again to observe. A group of men emerged, dressed in their black coats and wool caps, their forms dark and difficult to make out. They held something between them, and they deliberately kept their voices muffled and quiet. The wind assailed them, and they crouched to their knees, but not out of the captain's sight. Laughter, and then it was hushed. An arm stretched out from the human amoeba and jerked back down again. They were playing dice. The captain watched them for a few seconds, and when the laughter grew louder, he stepped forward, deliberately making his footfall audible. I watched as the men stood and turned around, and when they saw who it was, they quickly removed their hats. The wind caught up their disheveled hair and teased it further. "Are you be coming to join us, Captain?" came a cheeky remark. The captain said nothing, just silently held out his hand. The dice were obediently given to him. "To whom do they belong?" he asked. A man was ejected from the amoeba. "A night in the hold," he told him. "Now wait there just a minute," the sailor expostulated. "Just for a set of dice?" The solemn mouth became hard, and a certain ugly fire flashed in the captain's eyes. He took a step forward. The other men took a step back. One of them mumbled, "Don't you be making it worse, Tip." Paying no heed to the others, the captain repeated, "A night in the hold, and no food tomorrow." "You scurvy dog, you be having some nerve." The captain had an almost imperceptible change. His eyes became cooler, his jaw clenched, and his hands came out from inside his coat pocket. "You know the rules." "Rules?" Tip spat. I be aware of your rules. There be no drinking, no gambling, nothin'. Other captains don't be having such rules." "Other captains don't have such crew," the captain told him, his voice hard. "What ye be meaning by that?" "If you don't depart immediately for the hold, you'll be flogged come morning." "Flogged? Just for immediately? Why?" The sailor put his hand in his pocket, but he was suddenly caught up by the throat and lifted off his feet. "Remove your hand, rascal, remove it," the captain shouted. His eyes were afire and his face crimson. I pressed my face against the glass. The other men shifted and backed up. "Please, Captain," one of them said. "He be a sprog and don't know no better. He don't mean no harm." "Aye, he be a scallywag is all," another ventured. "No need to be killing the poor devil." The captain didn't heed them. He pinned the squirming sailor against the rail, unconcerned at how blue his face was becoming. I said, "Remove your hand, swine." The man, Tip, removed his hand from his coat pocket and clutched in it was a wicked-looking dagger. The captain wrenched it from his grip and tossed it overboard. He shoved the man on the deck, where he crumpled to his knees and coughed wretchedly. "Take him to the hold, Finley," the captain said to someone approaching. "No food tomorrow. He'll be flogged in the morning." Finley emerged, and I recognized him as the man who tended to me earlier. His soft white hair was too short for the wind to tease. I noticed there was a heavy cross at his neck that he was fingering. He took the sailor away, seeming not at all surprised by his orders. The captain dismissed the men and turned as though to enter the cabin I occupied. He stopped, however, when a voice from behind him said, "And how'd ye be finding the lady, captain?" The crowd erupted into laughter. I frowned. The captain turned quickly. "However, I choose. As for you men, all contact is forbidden. That's an order." "Then it be true what they be saying, captain. We've a lassie aboard." "Fished out of the briny deep sea like carp she is." "A mermaid more like." "A maid, you say? Ye sure?" "The captain's see to that." Laughter. I snorted. Cavemen. The captain, again, he said, "Men, as far as you're concerned, there is no lady aboard. Understood?" There was silence, and I thought that the captain had reached them, but then a big sailor with a shaved head and a gold tooth licked his lips and gritted, "Ye be expecting us to be eunuchs like ye?" "What was that?" the captain asked, his voice like ice. "Repeat yourself, please." There was a moment of silence. The men knew better than to reply. Captain said quietly, "Go, all of you. Tend to the ropes and pray to God you have the self-control to keep your hands off her." The men fell silent, and then one by one, they began to snicker. "Didn't know you had it in you, Captain." "She'd be a lucky lady, if I may say, Captain Tucker," someone told him carefully. I sighed as the men dispersed, expelling a breath I didn't know I had been holding. Tucker. So that was his name. There was a knock on the door, reverberating throughout the small cabin. "Come in," I called. The captain, Captain Tucker, he burst in, striding through at a gallop. "Forgive me, miss," but he stopped and jerked backwards, whacking his head on a hanging lantern. He cursed viciously. "What the blazes are you doing?" I was bent over his desk, searching. "You're indecent! Get back into bed!" I laughed. The nightshirt fell halfway down my legs. These Puritans. "Captain," I hurried, hardly sparing him a glance. "A pencil! Paper! It is urgent! Appropriate clothing! I must get started! There is so much to do!" "Get some bloody clothes on!" he shouted. He went to a trunk located near the bed and opened it. In a drawer I found a small, broken, primitive-looking pencil, simply a stick of graphite wrapped in string. I opened another drawer to continue looking for an obliging scrap of blank paper. "I have several important questions for you. First, what kind of ship is this? How large is your crew? What is your cargo? Do you have a lick of paper in this desk?" "What if I had been someone else?" he demanded, carefully keeping his gaze on the contents of the trunk as he rummaged through the clothing. "You didn't bother asking who it was before you invited me in. What if it had been one of the crew? Don't you realize how dangerous your position is?" "Who are you commissioned by?" I asked. "Are there any perplexing problems aboard?" He ground his teeth. "How can I make you understand?" "You don't know how fortunate you are, Captain. Why, fate has chosen you to be my vessel. I am here for a grand purpose. We must discover what it is." Finding what he was looking for, the captain pulled out a long dress and tossed it behind him without looking. "There, put that on, and if you insist on being up, I shall take my instruments and leave. You are to lock the door behind me and stay inside. The storm is getting worse, and it is dangerous for you in so many ways." "Oh, wonderful. A dress appropriate for the period. The chances are astronomically small on a ship full of men. See, everything is falling into place." Overhearing the men's conversation had unnerved me momentarily, but I was sufficiently recovered. I was more than a match for any obstacle. I went to the bed, and Tucker went to his desk and absently fingered some instruments. "There was something else I wanted to tell you," he began, and he cleared his throat uncomfortably. "George I is King of England," I told him while I inspected the dress. "He is German. It's about your position here, Tucker said. As a result of Queen Anne dying childlessly, there were beautiful buttons down the skirt. We are still 4 weeks from land, he continued. He is the first of 4 Georges in a row. Isn't that funny? My first mate suggested it. I wouldn't have dreamed of it otherwise. Though I understand he doesn't like his new adopted country. He refuses to speak English just to spite people. I observed the dress in front of me. Which was the front of the dress and which was the back? Tucker continued, but if we created a bit of fiction between you and me, Handel is writing music, I said. Listen, it's up to you, you understand, to agree when confronted, as no doubt you will be. And I believe the Methodist movement has begun. I continued to observe the dress. Front or back, the buttons needed to be unbuttoned, so I unbuttoned them. Miss, are you listening? Did you hear what I said? Oh, I know what that is, I cried, and went to him and fingered the instrument he was holding. A Davis quadrant, invented in the 17th century by John Davis, I believe. It is used for over 150 years. My hand was on it, and when I tried to take it from him, the man, Tucker, spun around and wrenched the instrument away from me, nearly roaring as he did so. Are you daft? Pay attention, or so help me, I will invite the crew and myself. Goodness, he was more cantankerous than I realized. I must adjust my approach to him. I'll be sure to make note of it.